Thank you both, and to the conference organizers for inviting me to speak on this important topic. So I'm sure all of us here in this Zoom call agree that educational spaces, whether formal or informal, offline or online, are very valuable spaces, or at least have the potential to be very valuable spaces to promote the inclusion of refugees and migrants. On the one hand, they're clearly spaces where people learn, and on the other hand, they're also spaces that can bring together people who may not otherwise have the chance to interact. Unfortunately, when we talk about inclusion or integration of refugees and migrants in education, the focus, as we've discussed in the first session, often is very one-sided. So very much they need to learn the language, they need to learn the culture, or what have you. We brought this up a lot in the first session, and I really loved Sherto's definition of integration as a kind of multifaceted mosaic of a shifting experience. And it's much more complex than just this one-sided narrative that we usually hear. One of the other issues is that host communities are often very uninformed when it comes to migration and refugees. So studies show that in Europe, for instance, most people totally overestimate the number of migrants that they think are in their country, or the number of Muslims. And then on top of it, with social media and the way we interact these days, you know, our opinions become more and more polarized. We have filter bubbles. We're only seeking out information that kind of goes along with what we already believe. So there's not a lot of opportunity for dialogue. So the challenge that I'd like to pose is, how do we foster the inclusion of refugees and migrants in educational spaces when the host community is often uninformed or skeptical of migration? So what we do at Migration Matters is we try to emphasize this side of inclusion, in that we want to provide more opportunities for the host community to become more aware about migration and refugees and diversity, and bring really more context and nuance to the public. So we don't use like killer facts or do myth busting. We try to provide arguments that are much more complex than the pro and con narrative that you hear often in media or in public debate. And because it's not enough to just put content online and hope people will have productive conversations in a comments thread. If any of you have ever seen a productive conversation in a comments thread on social media, I'd love you to send it to me. We started to partner up with other organizations that could use our videos in their work to amplify their work. And so our videos started getting used a lot in more educational contexts. And one of these, a solution that I wanted to pose to the challenge, is virtual exchange. So virtual exchange is a lot more than just online learning or agreements between universities in different countries. It's a people-to-people educational program that emphasizes dialogue. So it's facilitators and educators who lead a group of students from different backgrounds or locations on different topics, but also not just the content, but also on kind of trying to reveal their own assumptions and learn other perspectives. So this is a really valuable way, also with COVID, that we can think of more and more online opportunities to bring people together that don't usually come together. And it really promotes 21st century skills like intercultural competence, digital skills, critical literacy. And it can be a great tool for the social inclusion of refugees and migrants. The program that we're a part of, it brings together students half refugee background, half non-refugee background from Europe and the Southern Mediterranean. And then the second kind of solution I wanted to pose, or intervention rather, would be teacher training, which sounds kind of obvious, I think, but it's important to remember that teachers are humans. They are really shaped by their environment. In Europe, a lot of them, you know, work in countries where maybe the media narrative about migration is very negative. They're not often trained to deal with the diversity that they have in the classroom. And they also have not only explicit biases, but implicit biases that inform the way they teach, the expectations that they have of certain students versus others based on maybe how they look or where they come from, and whether they think it's valuable to bring in different perspectives in the classroom, or if they maybe think it's valuable, but they don't know how to do it. So for instance, our videos have been used in teacher training programs in the Czech Republic and Latvia are two notable examples. So in Latvia, we had trainings of 100 teachers throughout the country using our videos, but also doing activities with the teachers to help them kind of learn how to talk about migration in the classroom, because the content side isn't enough. The dialogue side is really important too. So in that case, we had, teachers who thought that they didn't know any migrants themselves, and we, through activities, could show them actually you have family members or friends who have moved maybe to Estonia or to the UK or Finland or whatever. They're migrants too. So starting to shift their understanding of who a migrant is, and maybe that it's not just it's not a negative thing. Those are the two, I'm not sure, I think I timed myself practicing. I think that was probably about 6 minutes. I wanted to close by showing you a short video. So we have over 120 videos on migration, diversity, nationalism, populism, lots of different topics that can be used by any organization for free. And I just want to show you a 1-minute teaser video to highlight kind of the type of work that we do. And our videos feature not only experts and researchers, but also other types of voices that are important that we considered experts in their own right. So practitioners, migrants and refugees, obviously, and also we interview people on the streets. So I'm going to share my screen and hope for the best. Okay, here we go.
Sometimes borders increase the tendency for migrants to settle permanently against their own wishes to actually go back and forth.
When I came here, I started to hear them say, like, you have to integrate, but I already integrate, just put me in the street and I integrate with anybody.
There's no universally agreed upon legal definition of who a migrant is.
That's it. Thank you very much.